Yo, what's up, boys? Coming at you with a warrior keybind video. I just finished my keybinds, which took me a bunch of iterations to do, and a lot of you guys loved my rogue keybind videos. We're gonna go just as in depth with the warrior keybinds because there's a lot of thought process that I put into these, so I hope you guys enjoy it. All right, let's jump in it. So the first thing that we're gonna talk about is stance dancing. Now, I'm a firm believer that a warrior should have the least amount of macros as possible. And I know that's kind of counterintuitive from what the entire community pretty much says. They have stance dance macros, so you don't have to press the stance and then the ability. No, you want control over your ability. That is what makes a powerful warrior. You control the keybinds, you control the abilities, because you don't want to run into a moment where you're like, say for example, you get an overpower proc, right? But you're at 100 rage. You shouldn't dump all that rage just for an overpower. And that's why you don't want any of these stance dances, to prevent you from making a mistake and then losing rage out of it. Keybinding this warrior, I've broke it up as much as possible where I have all the abilities that I can have without using a macro. Now, if you are wanting to introduce macros, I think the best way to introduce more stance swap macros would be to continue playing the game, run into those situations where you're like, man, if I had that macro, it would feel better. Then make that adjustment because it's filling the gap for your play style. Don't just overload your warrior with a bunch of macros and then now you're not really learning the warrior as it should be. You're just like a stance macro and you're really gimping yourself from a lot of the gameplay. So separate everything as much as possible so you can understand the class, understand the fundamentals, because stance dancing in itself has an application in the game. So you don't just want to just be stance dancing to all these different stances just to execute an ability because you're thinking in the moment that's what you need to do. You need to learn the warrior. Got to learn the ways of the warrior. All right, boys? So I have a 3-button mouse, Logitech G502. I put all of my stances on my mouse. The reason being is because now I can think in my brain, okay, if I need to do anything, get into the stance. All right. And then with my left hand, I can press the keybinds to execute the ability. And I find this to be the most easiest and effective. I've also tried putting my stances on the keyboard and it worked pretty well, but I can tell you right now, I'm 10 times more effective and efficient with it on my mouse than on my keys, because I did X, C, and V. So I had it all on my thumbs, and it was like playing DDR with my damn thumbs. I'm just like V4, V3, C5, X2, V shift 2. And I really hated going from X to V, like that jump from, like, for example, battle to berserk. It was really awkward. So having it on your mouse is really, really great. If you have 2 keybinds, I would probably recommend just doing a middle mouse press for your third stance. That's what I would recommend. If you have the Naga or, those MMO mouses, you guys are super chilling because you have abundance of keybinds. So this one has 3. I do use a Logitech G Pro Wireless when I play FPSs, but when I play WoW, I like that third keybind and it comes in super clutch for the warrior keybinds because I have all 3 stances. So moving forward, let's do the bottom of the bar first. And let's start off with 1. 1 is my hamstring. And the reason why 1 is my hamstring is because a lot of you guys know me for playing rogue. 1 was my shiv for crippling poison. So innately 1 was my slow. And to me, it feels super fluid and it's super quick because it's one of those abilities where if I'm on a target, moving and pressing 1, it's just so fast. There's almost no downtime, and you can even jump and do it and be able to strafe in any sort of direction. Because I use Q, W, and E, so my fingers already rest at the top of the keyboard. So pressing 1 is only 1 keycap up. I'm not using AWD where I have to move over Q up to 1. I'm literally just, my fingers pretty much already there. So for me, 1 has been great, and I use it in conjunction to my charge, which is to the left of 1. So say, for example, I'm sorry, Rabbit, you're just going to have to be the test subject here. I go in and I use my battle. So I use my right click on my mouse and then I use the little squiggle line next to 1, and then boom, 1. So my finger is already off of my cue because I'm prepping for the charge. And then my finger just moves over to the side once, one little keycap, boom, hamstring applied. My fingers are now in like battle ready mode because my fingers are already lifted, ready for my 2 or whatever other actions that I want to use. So I love, love, love that sequence where my charge being the squiggle next to the 1 and then having my 1 as the slow. 2, I'm a firm believer is the best, your main DPS keybind, just because you can hold, you can use it while using your mouse to steer your character, and you can strafe in any direction. So you can always be applying that pressure no matter which direction you're going to be getting kited in. So I love, love, love having 2 as my mortal strike. Moving to 3, I come from a rogue background. I've experienced really, really good warriors and their abilities to shout vanishes. And that's something that I really wanted to instill in my gameplay, because I feel like a lot of warriors lack in that department because they underutilize or they underbind the demo shout or any shout. It should be demo shout because you spec into a larger radius. That's why I don't have it as my piercing howl. But they under keybind this ability. I put it as 3 because 1 through 4 in my mind is like the meta binds, and I have it there so I can be able to strafe in either direction and do a shout, because I know, and I'm always looking for that rogue vanish because I play a rogue, right? Like I want to get into his mind because he thinks he's in my mind. He thinks I'm just some zug warrior. Like, dude, I've done the setups. You know what I'm saying? So I put 3 as my demo shout because I want to be on point and be able to shout a rogue's vanish on that vanish. Same thing with like blinding a rogue's vanish or vanishing a rogue's blind. You have that snappiness with your vanish keybind. I have that snappiness with my demo shout because I understand rogues are a really big counter, and that is one of the, I would say, deeper plays that you can do as a warrior, where someone's going to sit back and be like, yo, dude, like he just shouted both of my vanishes. Like I couldn't get any sort of setup. Like this guy's a fucking god. So demo shout on 3 to allow me again to strafe in any direction, because say, for example, he's like setting up to the left, I need to be able to jump shout, or like he vanishes out in any sort of direction with sprint up. You need to be able to react, adapt, and shout, and make sure you're getting that max range on that shout. Next we have is execute. I love 4. 4 was my kidney shot, which was pretty much my execute because things are dying in kidney shots. So I moved my execute over to 4, and that's just a really comfortable, again, it's pretty standard. Usually people put their main DPS binds on the 1 through 4, going into another keybind the same way that it supplements with my charge. My intercept is R. So my R goes to intercept. Say, for example, the guy is low, I need a sidestep away, boom, get the intercept, and then like maybe I mortal strike, and then boom, I hit a 4. So I go from my pointer finger pressing R to my middle finger pressing mortal strike, and then I'm already loading, and I just have to move my finger up 1 from R to 4 to execute. And even if I don't even have to use mortal strike, I can just use R to 4, boom, R to 4, intercept to execute. It's perfect. And it's so comfortable for me. And then next I have is heroic strike next to that, because I feel like 5 is a keybind that was my old DPS trinket, but I decided to swap it out and use heroic strike here, because I feel like when you press 5, your hand is already active on like the 1 through 5 set. And a lot of times when you want to use heroic strike, you have additional rage to spend. So it's not like it's a constantly used keybind. You're already pre-looking for the situation because you're like, oh shit, I have a ton of rage. So you're already thinking like, let's extra dump here. And in that thought process, you can like, you know, get your hand over to 5 and hit a nice, you know, 2-5 for the heroic strike, mortal strike, and just like pump some damage into someone. So that's why I love it being there. And it also complements too. If I want to use execute and I have a bunch of energy, I can then just hit 4-5. It's right there. Again, it's super comfortable. And it allows me to be, again, over my 1 through 4. So no matter what happens, like say, for example, if I want to go for a heroic strike, but I need to like cancel the Q and then hit hamstring, I'm able to do that because my hand is already up for the 5. And then I just use my ring finger for the 1. So it actually allows me to kind of be like a spider monkey in a way, and allows me to just cover all my bases on any situation that I need to do DPS wise to be able to be reactive. After that, I have Victory Rush. This is a keybind that, you use after you kill someone. 6, guys, it's a reach. I don't recommend it, but I was quite surprised with how many keybinds Warrior has. I'm not going to lie. They actually have more keybinds than my Rogue. And I was like, man, I need to figure out somewhere to put this damn thing. And I gotta say, like, 6 was just a throw for the Victory Rush, guys. There wasn't too much logic in it. But it is nice because, hey, if you do get an execute kill and it's right there, you can then just like switch targets and your 4 just let off 4 and then pound the 6 from 4 to 6. Booyah. Booyah. Next, we have X. X is my Death Wish, and that's going to be on my X keybind. And the reason why I put it on my X keybind was I feel I want to free up the top fingers. So my ring, middle, and pointer. I want to free up these fingers for DPS. I don't want to have to press or use one of these fingers to press a power-up ability. So I used it for my thumb to allow me to press it with my thumb and allow me to have full access of these fingers to be able to do whatever I need to do. So say, for example, I go in charge, hamstring, right? And then I'm using all of these top fingers, rage, but then I can literally just use my Death Wish, and my middle finger's already on my 2, and I'm able to start DPSing, and there's not too much movement. Because again, a lot of times, like, I get it, you're in the moment, a lot of stuff is happening, and the more you have to use one finger, the easier it is for error, in my opinion. It's harder to, for example, you put all your DPS on like R, T, and F. If you have to press like R, T, and F in a consecutive order, you're gonna be getting tripped up because too many important keybinds are on like one important finger. So you want to make sure you want to break everything up. And I love putting some of these abilities on my thumb because it lets me to be ready for that next moment ahead with my DPS binds or whatever is on the top end of the keyboard or the middle of the keyboard. So next to that, we have Spell Reflect. So Spell Reflect is on my C, and that is another ability that allows me to look and be able to instantly react. Because say, for example, I'm on a druid or something like that, and I'm pumping damage, and I see a cast coming out from the corner of my eye. I need to be able to, while I'm still in that mindset of like pump, to be able to react fast enough and be able to weapon swap into that Spell Reflect. And since we're on Spell Reflect, that is one of the macros that I do have where it will put me in D stance, equip my sword and shield, and it will cast my Spell Reflect. So that is one ability because you need that in that micro moment where you catch that cast at like 50%. You just need that macro to swap you and deflect it. So for me, I want to be able to be on a druid and like pump my mortal strike, make sure I'm staying on top of him with hamstringing him in between his globals of his shape-shifting forms. And like if I catch something in my eye, I can have my thumb rest on C and be prepared for that cast to reflect it. Because it's super important. Say, for example, I was pressing 1 and I was staying on top of the druid, making sure that I was hamstringing in between every one of his casts. And like I see the cast all of a sudden, and then I need to like press something else with that finger. That downtime of me shifting and adjusting my hand on my mouse pad and on the keyboard to make sure it's aligned with the keybind that I want to press, all that downtime is equated into that cast, and you're going to miss it. You're going to get caught in it. So it's really important, or I feel like it's really important to have that keybind on a separate finger that allows you to be on the offensive and manage one thing while being able to have that kind of like in your pocket where if a situation arises, you are also prepared for that other thing, which might be that cast coming in or whatever it may be. So I love, love, love it on C. Next, we have two intervenes. We have V and B. Intervene V is arena 1 and 2. So whoever my party member is at the top, that'll be my normal V. And then whoever is the second in my arena, that will be my shift modifier. I mostly use my V my V intervene for 3s and 2s, because then it's just going to be V and then shift V, because we'll just position the party where I'm the third one and they're the second. So it's super easy to organize it that way. And so that allows me to be super snappy with my intervenes and make sure I'm disrupting all the CC as possible and making sure my healers or my teammates are not getting into those CC chains, because intervene is like Demo Shout, which has like a really high skill cap and creates that depth for the warrior where people are like, yo, that was a really, really good warrior. So you want to make sure that it's on a very, very high tier keybind, that you can respond to things fast, and that you can use a shift modifier for that keybind so you can be able to do it to multiple teammates to allow you to be even that more effective and responsive. So I love it on V because, again, it allows me to say, for example, I'm on the druid and I got a mace sun proc. I'm like, hell yeah, dog, I'm on fire. Boom, pull up a mortal strike. Yo, bro, I just got blinded. Oh shit, okay. Well, guess what? While I'm pumping too, where's my thumb? My thumb naturally rests on the space bar and C and V kind of together, depending on like where I'm at naturally, but it usually for the most part rests on V by default. And I usually move it over for C. That's where I have my V and my B. Shift X is my Thunderclap. You're going to be using Thunderclap in BGs if there's a lot of warriors in melee, and you're going to be using Thunderclap against warriors because it reduces their swing timer. So, you know, you add that up around a 10-minute game and you're saving yourself a lot of damage. So you don't want Thunderclap on like a high tier keybind, but you want it to be there where you remember it and you use it on a pretty frequent basis, and you can build that muscle memory so the keybind doesn't feel awkward and it actually feels quite responsive. So I love, love, love it on Shift X. And then next we have my challenging shout, and I have this on Shift B. And the reason why I have this on B is because, say for example, a mage is going to be sheeping you and the pet is now no longer casting. If it's in range, you can actually challenging shout the pet, and the pet will start attacking you and break the sheep. It's a really cool thing that I learned from a warrior, and I was like, wow, that's actually really sick. So let me go put that on my bar. And the reason why I put it on Shift B is because it's not out of the way where it's this really awkward keybind where I'm never really gonna hit it, but it's there in the moment if I need it. Because I definitely use X, C, V, and B, and B was my Shadow Step kidney shot. So I'm very, very used to using B, and my Shift B was actually my distract ability. And I've gotten really good at using Shift B and B in a very responsive manner just because of all the times I used it. And so for me, having a shout on Shift B is just great because to me, it allows me to be responsive. And it's one of those abilities that has a micro utility, and you wanted to have it on your bars to be able to execute that play to really, you know, potentially win you a game. So that's going to be it. And I pretty much have it static throughout my entire bar, but this is actually messed up. So I do apologize. But yeah, I do all my abilities as static bar. I don't change the action bar based on the stance I'm in, because that allows me to get familiar and build deep rooted connection with my keybinds and have that muscle memory through. So I know like an ability is attached to a specific keybind. So I know when I need to do something, it is that keybind and it's nothing else. Because if, say for example, if I'm in D stance and I have my revenge as 4, you know, I could be messing myself up because I wanted to press, you know, Mortal Strike, but because I was in defensive stance, I pressed revenge, and it's like, damn, bro, like I wanted to hit this. So I highly, highly recommend you separate all of your keybinds and keep them consistent on all of the stances to make sure you are fluid with them and that you build that muscle memory. So moving forward to the top, we now have Again, we went over our charge, which is next to the 1, and we use that in conjunction with hamstring. Then we have R for intercept. And the reason why I have R for intercept is because R to me is a really alpha bind. It was my vanish on my rogue. Warriors will use intercept to, like, for example, focus intercept to interrupt the stun or interrupt the cast. I can have R for my normal intercept, shift R for arena 1, and control R for arena 2. So then I'll be able to intercept any sort of casts that come in, or if I want to make a swap play, I can make a clean swap play with just a boom, shift R, control R, or alt R, and really be able to make that like smooth transition. And people are like, whoa, that was like a crazy swap that he just did. So that's why I have it on R. And then T is my whirlwind. Now, what's so great about T being my whirlwind is Warriors actually had a lot of offensive abilities. Rogues pretty much just had Chemo and Eviscerate, but Warriors have Mortal Strike, Execute, Heroic Strike, and Whirlwind. And I knew I didn't want to put them all on the top 1 bar because my fingers would feel like it's definitely dancing in a way. And I wanted to break it up. So I put it on T because then that means T, Execute, and Heroic Strike are going to be on my pointer finger, which are 3 keybinds, but they're used in different situations to the point where it doesn't feel like it's suffocating my finger, where I'm juggling too many keybinds. And that's what's so great about it, where if I had it in a different spot, maybe 3, for example, my pointer finger and everything would just be constantly dancing and it'd be easy for me to get mixed up. But Whirlwind, it's off to the side mentally of the keybinds where it allows me to like know that I can use it, which has been really, really great because it goes so well. For example, I use my charge, hamstring, and then I use my ring finger to press rage, and then I hit a mortal strike, and then my T is my pointer finger, it's free. So I can either, and it's naturally resting on E because I use my QWE. And then from there, my next rage regen, boom, I pop my T for my whirlwind. And it feels really, really good. I really love my whirlwind on T. And it goes so well with all the other keybinds because, say, for example, my Mortal Strike's off cooldown and I need to intercept whirlwind. I just do RT, intercept whirlwind. Or if I need to intercept and I do my hamstring with my ring finger. So I do R for my pointer, hamstring, and then my T is right there. So I can literally just do intercept, hamstring, whirlwind, boom, super fluid. And then if I need rage, I can even do that with my A, which kind of brings me to my next keybind, which is my rage. So for example, I intercept, right? I intercept this rabbit with my R, I press hamstring on him, then I press my A, I press my T, and it just really creates this like fluid. My fingers feel like they're separated in a really good way and able to press all these different abilities in these different moments because these abilities are used in conjunction with one another, but not at the point where they're so on top of each other that it's like suffocating, and they're also spread out in a really, really nice way. So I really highly recommend that you guys try out these keybinds if you want to take anything out of these, because I really think I nailed it on like the DPS part. It's been really, really fluid for me. Moving forward, next we have the Pummel. Now, I use my kick on my rogue on my mouse, and I had to break that because of the stance dancing, having those stances on my mouse. So I put it as F, which was my blind, and that allows me to have a shift modifier. So my focus kick. F is my kick bind because it's super fluid. It's fast it's a fast reactive keybind, just like with blind, and it allows me to be super, super snappy with it. And my shift modifier, if I need a sidestep focus kick, super, super snappy as well. So I really, really love that being there. And if I need the rage, what's so nice is I can rage with my A finger, my pinky puts on shift, and then I press F. So say, for example, I'm like in between a swing and I see the cast, my rage is up. You know, in that moment, if the cast is like at 50%, all my fingers are free to press it all at the same time. And if I need to execute that play, I can do that play. And that's why I love it so much, because I can literally just, I can side hit the rage, shift, focus kick, boom. And it's super fluid. Next keybind we have is Fear, and that's going to be on G. The reason why I have G on fear, and this is honestly, it's been my fear bind for a very, very long time, is because you look for the moments on fear. If you have it on a 2 reactive keybind, you might just like fat finger it, and you also might just throw it when you shouldn't be throwing it. And warriors, I think you always want to look for the fear and try and get that like biggest fear where you're fearing everyone, like that triple fear, double fears. Like you want to look for those moments. And so when you look for those moments, you're already like preloading your finger to hit G. And I feel like it's just the perfect keybind where all your DPS ones are on your main keybinds. The fear, it's not too out. It's not on a shift modifier. So like when you see the moment, you can press it. It's there. And to me, G has been an absolute great keybind. And it really has allowed me to do incredible fears. And it's just a great place to put it, in my opinion. It really, really is. So moving on to the next one, we have Rend. Rend is actually my middle mouse button. So for example, if I'm on rogues, I will, go into battle stance, and then I will press my middle mouse button if I want to just kind of troll them and put a bleed on them so they can't get away. And that is actually my rupture on my rogue. So it really worked out perfect where I already have that muscle memory built in me where my rupture was my Rend. So super great keybind too. Highly recommend it. It's there if you need it in the moment, and it doesn't feel like it's too out the way where maybe the moment might slip away from you and you won't be able to land it, or you might get tripped up on the keybinds. And yeah, definitely really recommend Rend being on middle mouse. Next, we have our shifts 1 through 4. So this took me a little while to figure out what felt natural to me and what felt good. Now, shift 1 was my mind-numbing poison on my rogue, which was essentially something that crippled the caster. And I thought, well, wow, that just goes so well with piercing Howl, because essentially it's a mind-numbing poison, but for movement speed. So I was already so good at using shift 1 for a quick swap on a mind-numbing poison, and I thought it was so great for me to put it for the Howl, because again, you can rotate and pretty much jump and press it with the shift 1, and it's there and it's snappy enough where you can be super responsive. And like, for example, if someone says like they need peels, like it's right there. It's literally your 1, but with a shift. And what's so good is it makes sense in your mind to have it on shift 1 because hamstring is a slow and it's your 1. And then shift 1 is a modified slow, which is your area effect. So that compartmentalizes really well in your brain when you're thinking about like, oh shit, in the moment, what should I do? Oh, I need a piercing Howl. Okay, where's that keybind? Oh, that's right. My 1's my hamstring, but that's if I'm on him. What's my AoE hamstring? My shift 1. Perfect, man. It's so great. And when you group things up like that, it's really awesome. It works really well. Next, we have our Berserker Rage for shift 2. So there was a lot of thought process in this, and I actually moved these things around a lot. The reason why I settled on shift 2 was because, say for example, you go in and you charge, you're pretty much going to be swapping to D stance because you don't want to get lacked up in battle stance and sitting a full fear, right? So you charge, you get into your Berserker stance, and my 2 is my Mortal Strike. So say, for example, I'm on the guy and they fear me off. Well, and I was pressing 2 for Mortal Strike, but it didn't go off because I was feared. All I have to do is press shift, press my 2, gets me out, and then what I have to do, let go of my shift and press 2, and there's my Mortal Strike. So for me, it allowed me to, because I'm going to be getting feared, so it's going to peel me off. It allows me to remove the peel and get back into the game, and allows me to do that without having to move my fingers in any sort of crazy manner, where it allows me to be prepped for the next ability that I want to use. So it allows me to instantly Berserker Rage, and then press my 2 for Mortal Strike, or Berserker Rage Hamstring, because I use my pinky, middle finger for my rage, and then my ring finger is automatic. It's practically resting on 1 at that point, and then boom, you're there. So rage, hamstring, or rage into Mortal Strike. It's just really comfortable, and like whatever it may be too. what's so good about putting your endless rage on shift 2 is it's in the middle of all of your 1 through 4s. So no matter what the moment is, whether you need to slow, whether you need to do damage, whether you need to execute, it's all in the middle, which allows you to move all your fingers because your middle finger is pressing it. So if you're using your middle finger to press the rage, if you need to slow, you hit the ring, and if you need to execute, you hit the pointer. And it just allows you to be so versatile. I mean, even if you want to, use your R for intercept or your T for whirlwind, like your shift 2 is just, it allows you to do everything while pressing that bind. And that's why I ultimately settled on it, because it was so perfect. It was so perfect. And if you try it out, I'm telling you, it'll be so fluid. You'll be like, damn, bro, like not only are you getting out of fears hella fast, you're going to be like into that next step even faster. And you'll be like, wow, this is really, really good. All right, moving on to shift 3, my overpower. Now, circling back to my demo shout, right? I want to be shouting out rogues, vanishes. That's why I decided it on 3. And the reason why I decided shift 3 for my overpower was because shift 3 was also my wound poison stack. And I was used to spamming that and also being able to swap quickly to stack those wound poisons. And I thought to myself, well, wound poison and swapping is kind of like a swap of a gameplay, right? Like, okay, I need to go into stacking wounds mode. Well, using overpower is going into battle stance. Say, for example, a rogues and evasion. It's time to go into the battle stance, use overpower, and let's focus on getting that ability. And I had to break it up because overpower was on my 3, but I wanted to keep overpower in a easy to reach, fast responsive keybind that still let my fingers be at the top over my 1 through 4s and allowed me to call upon it when I needed to. And I thought shift 3 was the perfect keybind because it allowed me to shout, and then also it allows me to be super responsive and just have that in that comfortable keybind. And that's why I chose that over, because my next one up is disarm, which is shift 4. And that was actually my weapon swap for my weapon chain on my rogue. So I thought, well, if shift 4 is my weapon chain, it makes so much sense to have it as my disarm. And disarm is one that I do not go into the defensive stance. I do all of these manually. So yeah, it made total sense for me to use shift 4 as my disarm. Next, we have shift Fs with my focus pummel, but we talked about that. And this is actually a really, really cool one. So my battle and commanding shout. There are moments where you will choose a different shout in arena or in matches. So what I did is I did a shift modifier on my battle stance and my defensive stance keybind. So my logic to this was, well, my berserk is kind of battle, forward tempo, and then commanding is defensive, back, more health gameplay. So I use the shift modifier on my stances to allow me to kind of compartmentalize. I can't even say it. I'm trying to use the word again. I can't even say it. Compartmentalize the keybinds with those stances, so it makes sense for you in the moment, like when you need to swap the shouts, to give you that advantage of like defensive now, okay, let's go offensive. So I thought that was a really, really cool way to allow me to have those keybinds in a spot that felt reactive and not something that I'm clicking ever. And really, really love that as well. So whether you want to do the mouse binds or scroll wheels, I think those are a really, really cool place to start. So next we have is shift T. And with this, I actually have a macro where if I press it, it will swap the weapon to my sword and shield if I press it. So whatever is active, I just press the same keybind and it changes it. Now I did have my keybind on shift C, but I just recently found it out. So it's really like whatever weapon you have on at the moment, you're like, oh shit, I need to go sword and board. Boom, press shift T. Oh shit, I need to go two hand, shift T. So it's like, yeah, both of them, but whatever you're looking at. And it's a sword and shield. It's super easy to notice what you have in your hands. It's a great keybind. It's a 2-in-1. And it doesn't make you where you're getting tripped up, because when I was using my shift C and shift T, sometimes I was getting tripped up. And this allows it just to be in one spot and be able to swap between the two. So really, really do like that. Next, we have the shift squiggle. And what's what I use with Shift Squiggle is actually my shield block. So what I'll do is I'll use like Shift T and then Shift Squiggle. And what works so great is if I need to swap, I'm already pressing Shift, right, for my Shift T. And I'm reaching out over to do my Shift T to swap to my sword and shield. And when I do that, my ring finger just goes right over to the squiggle and boom, shield block. So right when I swap to shield, my finger is already preloaded for shield block super comfortably. My pinky is already holding shift. I don't need to move anything. So it technically puts shield block on my charge bind. And it's really, really nice because it allows me to just like swap instantly and then boom, shield block right when I need to. And it's wild because it's positioned in a way where it kind of doesn't make sense, right? Why would you want shield block on Shift Squiggle? Well, because shield block or my weapon swap is on shield 10, it opens up that opportunity to use an actual dog shit keybind into an S tier keybind because of how you just combo it. So that was actually a really, really cool thing that I did. And it has allowed me to be super comfortable with using shield block and in arena as well, you know, because a lot of these, sometimes like, you know, people just don't really use shield block. They'll put on sword and board, but they're like, well, you know, they have all these abilities on their bar and then sometimes they don't even use it. And this allows me to, you know, I'm going defensive. Because they combo so well. In my mind, I know exactly like that's my combo. I go sword and shield, and then I press shield block. They go hand in hand, and that's why I love it so much. Next, we have Shift A for my mount. Mount can really be anything off and awkward. I pretty much just have it off and awkward. My shift mouse wheel up is my health stone, same as my rogue. And my shift mouse wheel down was my cannibalize, and that is my shadow meld. And what's good about that is because I can actually shadow meld charge because I just like shift mouse wheel and then I can press my charge, and it's pretty sick. So do like that as well, and allows me to use shadow meld and get that value out of it and not just like, you know, leave that racial dead. So really like how I was able to match that. And then lastly is my trinket, and that's been my trinket for years, which is D. Allows me to be super responsive and combo into essentially anything. For example, if I want to trinket a stun and I need to intercept a target, well, that's DR. Boom, right there. DR, I'm already on the guy. Or if I need a trinket fear, that's D over to G. Or if I need a trinket to kick, that's D to F, right? Or I need a trinket whirlwind, boom, D to T. So my biggest CC, D to G, right? My connection, D to R. My interrupt, D to F. And my intervene, D to V, which allows me to pretty much press it at the same time because it's different fingers. But me pressing my intercept, my fear or kick, my pointer finger is incredibly alpha, and you're able to press those probably faster than any keybind out there. So it allows me to be super, super versatile. And if I ever need to use a charge, like trinket charge, you know, whatever it may be, because maybe I'm sapped or something like that in battle stands, I don't know. I can press my D to my squiggle because my pointer finger is there and my ring finger can pretty much preload the key. So it allows me to do any connective keybind. Also allows me to do trinket hamstring literally right there as well. Allows me to do everything in conjunction with all of my abilities. And I really, really recommend putting your trinket on D. It's been an incredible keybind that I've been using for years. So guys, that is it. That concludes the Warrior TBC keybinding video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys think about the keybinds down in the comments below and what you guys actually incorporate. I would love to know what keybinds you incorporate in your own and the successes they bring and the plays you're able to do. So please jump in the comments with me, guys. Thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, join our Discord, join me on Twitch as well. Love you all, and I'll see you guys in the next one, all right? Later, boys.